The airplane wheels touched down with a heavy thud, and Eric felt his chest tighten. He had dreamt of this moment for years, the moment he would finally step onto American soil. The land of opportunity, of freedom, of new beginnings. The land where, as his mother used to say, hard work never goes unrewarded. He clutched his small brown duffel bag as the passengers stood to leave. The bag was all he had left of everything he'd sold: his motorcycle, his late father's wristwatch, and the little patch of land his family once farmed. All of it gone, exchanged for a chance to start a new life. Eric had sent money ahead, months of savings, to a friend named Tommy, a man who promised to arrange accommodation, a job, and to pick him up at the airport. Tommy had been his guide, his connection, his supposed brother in the struggle. But as Eric walked through the terminal and scanned the crowd of faces waiting beyond the arrivals gate, Tommy was nowhere to be found. He waited, and waited, the crowd thinned, announcements echoed, and soon the airport lights dimmed slightly as the day turned into evening. Eric dialed Tommy's number. Again, no answer. He called again. Then again, voicemail, double quotes. Hey bro, it's me, Eric. I just landed. I'm at JFK. Where are you? He tried to sound calm, but panic was slowly replacing excitement. He called once more, but this time the line didn't even ring. Disconnected? That night, Eric sat on a metal bench near the airport exit. His jacket wasn't warm enough for the October chill that seeped through his bones. Every time the automatic doors opened, a gust of cold air bit at his skin. His stomach growled. His chest hurt. And reality settled like a stone in his gut. Tommy had scammed him. The $3,000 he sent for rent and arrangements? Gone. The friend who promised to help a brother make it? Disappeared. Eric spent the night huddled with his bag as a pillow. He didn't sleep. He just stared at the ceiling, tears silently tracking down his cheeks. The next morning, he dragged himself into the city. New York was louder, harsher, and faster than he had imagined. The faces around him didn't smile. They rushed. Cars honked. Steam rose from the streets. Eric stopped at a corner store, explaining to the owner that he was new in town and looking for work. The man shook his head. Try down by the docks, he said. They sometimes need hands. For weeks, Eric worked odd jobs, cleaning, unloading boxes, washing dishes, anything to survive. He slept in a shelter, ate at church kitchens, and sent no word home because he couldn't bear to admit that he had failed. But even in the struggle, he refused to give up. His mother's voice echoed in his heart. You are stronger than what happens to you. One evening, after his shift at a small restaurant, Eric saw an older white man arguing with a delivery driver near the alley. The man's bag had been stolen. Someone had snatched it and run off into the dark. Without thinking, Eric chased after the thief. His legs were strong, his anger sharp. He caught the man, wrestled the bag free, and returned it to its owner. The man was stunned. You didn't have to do that, he said, breathing heavily. I could have called the cops. Eric shrugged. I just did what I thought was right. The man smiled faintly. You got guts, kid. What's your name? Eric. I'm Mr. Dalton, the man said, extending his hand. And I think I might have something better for you than washing dishes. The next day, Dalton picked him up in a black BMW. Eric noticed how effortlessly the man carried himself expensive watch, leather gloves, cool demeanor. They drove to a suburban house that looked ordinary from the outside, but was filled with computers and people typing rapidly inside. This, Dalton said proudly, is my business. Eric frowned. What kind of business? Dalton smirked. We manage money transfers, online deals. Let's say we help rich people spend their money. Without knowing, Eric froze. You mean scamming? Dalton laughed. Such an ugly word. It's business, son. Everyone's scamming someone. We just do it better. Eric hesitated. He knew it was wrong, but he was tired of hunger, of rejection, of feeling invisible in a world that didn't care. Dalton leaned closer. I'll pay you 10 times what you make washing plates. All you need is a laptop, a sharp mind, and loyalty. The words 10 times echoed in Eric's head. His conscience screamed no, but his stomach and his desperation whispered yes. He nodded slowly. All right, I'm in. Dalton trained him. He learned to build fake websites, write convincing emails, create profiles that seemed real. He became good, very good. His accent, his charm, and his intelligence made him one of Dalton's best. Soon, money flowed like never before. Eric bought new clothes. He moved into a nice apartment. For the first time, he felt respected. People called him boss. Dalton grew fond of him, often saying, "You're like the son I never had." But Eric could never shake off the small voice inside that whispered, "This isn't who you are." Still, he pushed that voice aside. They scammed investors, online lovers, crypto enthusiasts. They made millions, and then one day, karma began to stir. It started small, a bounced wire transfer, an email trace, a suspicious IP. Dalton brushed it off. "We've handled worse," he said, but the cracks widened. One of the younger members, anxious about his cut, threatened to snitch if he didn't get more. Dalton silenced him permanently. Eric saw the lifeless body and froze. "You killed him?" Dalton's voice was cold. "He was a risk." That night, Eric couldn't sleep. The money on his desk suddenly looked like blood. He began to think of his mother back home, of her prayers, of the lessons she taught him about right and wrong. He wanted out. But Dalton had other plans. "You're not leaving, Eric," he said one day. "You're too valuable." That was the moment Eric realized he wasn't free. He was a prisoner in a mansion built with stolen wealth. Weeks later, the FBI raided the house. Sirens blared. Agents stormed in. Eric was dragged out, hands cuffed, face down on the driveway. Dalton was caught too, but when questioned, he turned cold. "I don't know this guy," he told the agents. "He was just a cleaner." Eric stared at him. Betrayed once again, just like Tommy at the airport. History had repeated itself. Months in prison changed Eric. He spent his time reading, reflecting, and praying. He wrote letters to his mother, apologizing for everything. One day, a guard handed him a letter back. It was from her. It said simply, "My son, the path to redemption begins the moment you choose to walk away from darkness." He wept that night, quietly for hours. When his sentence ended, Eric walked out of prison with nothing but a new resolve. He started volunteering at a tech literacy center, teaching others how to spot online scams. He spoke to immigrants about the dangers of easy money. He told his story without shame, because it wasn't a story of defeat. It was one of survival and redemption. Slowly his life turned. He met kind people. He earned honest pay. He learned that dignity wasn't in what you owned, but in what you stood for. Years later, while giving a talk at a youth seminar, Eric saw a familiar face among the crowd, a reporter. Afterward, she approached him. "You were part of Dalton's ring, weren't you? The man who exposed the rest after you got out?" Eric smiled faintly. "Yes, but I wasn't proud of what I did before that." She nodded. "Your testimony helped bring down one of the biggest cybercrime rings in the country." "That's something." Eric looked down. "Maybe, but for me, redemption isn't about what I helped destroy. It's about what I've built since." That night, Eric walked home under a calm sky. The air smelled of rain. He passed by a diner window and caught his reflection. He didn't see the broken man who arrived at JFK. He saw a survivor. He reached into his pocket and pulled out his mother's letter, worn, creased, sacred. He whispered softly, "I made it, Mama. Not rich, but right." A faint smile crossed his face as a police siren echoed in the distance. Somewhere out there, another young man was making the same mistake he once did, and maybe one day he'd meet him too and help him find his way back. Sometimes life doesn't give you the welcome you expect. Sometimes it tests you with betrayal before it blesses you with purpose. Eric came to America chasing success, but he found something far more valuable, redemption. In a world where money blinds and loyalty fades, his story reminds us that true wealth is found not in what we gain, but in who we become. As Eric turned the corner that night, he noticed a black car following him slowly, its headlights dimmed. He frowned. He thought he left that life behind. But maybe some ghosts don't stay buried forever. What would you have done in Eric's situation? Would you have taken Dalton's offer or walked away? Tell us in the comments below.